Don't go up the stairs. It was sometime in the late 2000s. I was in my early 20s, broke but genuinely happy, living as an expat in Berlin. Life was simple back then. I didn't have much money, but I had friends, music, and the thrill of being young in a city that always seemed alive. One Friday night, my British roommate and I went to see a small band at a local venue. We had a few drinks, just enough to feel warm and loose, and left around 1 in the morning. The city was quiet by then. The streets, which earlier buzzed with life, now felt deserted. We walked arm in arm, laughing too loudly for the empty street. The air was damp with mist, the kind that hangs beneath streetlights and makes halos of pale yellow light. I remember the way the leaves scraped across the pavement in little gusts of wind, almost like whispers chasing us from behind. And that's when we noticed her. At first, she was just a silhouette in the fog ahead of us. A small, hunched figure moving slowly down the sidewalk. She carried 2 heavy-looking bags, one in each hand. Her steps were uneven, dragging one leg behind her in a painful limp. We spoke in English as we approached, not thinking twice, until the figure suddenly cried out, "Oh, help! Won't somebody help me?" The voice was sharp, commanding. It wasn't the trembling cry of someone afraid. It was expectant, like she had been waiting for us. I slowed down. My roommate didn't. She gripped my arm and whispered urgently, "Keep walking." But I couldn't. The woman looked frail, almost pitiful. She turned slightly, and even through the mist I could see her lined face and grey hair. My instincts told me to stop. "What do you need?" I asked. "It's my leg," she groaned. "Help me carry the bags. I live just over there." She nodded toward a dark apartment building a little way down the street. I didn't think twice. "Of course," I said. My roommate sighed and reluctantly followed as I picked up one of her bags. That's when I really saw her face in the streetlight. She looked exactly like the witch from a Grimm's fairy tale, stooped posture, straggly hair, pale skin, a wart on her nose. She wore a heavy black wool cloak with a hood. For a second, my breath caught in my throat. She looked unreal. But I told myself, don't be rude. Don't judge. She's just an old woman. We carried her bags toward the building. The closer we got, the heavier the air seemed to feel. And then I noticed something that made me uneasy. The front door of the building was already ajar. At that time of night, in that neighborhood, that was unusual. People in Berlin kept their doors locked. She moved quickly now, strangely quickly, pushing the door open with strength that seemed to appear out of nowhere. She smiled and motioned me inside. "Just up the stairs," she whispered. Her voice was different now. Low. Urgent. Almost eager. The stairwell beyond was narrow and dim. The fluorescent lights flickered, painting everything in a sickly yellow. The air smelled like stale smoke and mildew. At the top of the stairs, I could see a door, slightly open, with darkness yawning inside. I froze in the doorway. Something felt wrong. Everything in me screamed not to go in. And yet, the polite part of my brain, the part that hated saying no, told me I should carry her bag just a little further. The old woman tilted her head, her eyes glinting in the half-light. "Up the stairs," she urged again. "Quickly, quickly." Her voice, it wasn't the voice of someone desperate for help. It sounded gleeful, like someone about to get exactly what they wanted. The hair on the back of my neck stood straight. I laughed nervously, trying to shake off the feeling. "This feels like a horror movie," I whispered to myself. "Too cliché, too absurd to be real danger, right?" But then my roommate snapped. "Oh hell no," she shouted, loud enough to echo through the empty street. She yanked my arm hard, pulling me away from the doorway. The woman's smile dropped. She called after us, her voice sharp, disappointed, almost angry. But we didn't look back. We ran. Across the street, down the stairs into the subway, into bright lights and the safety of strangers. Only when we were safe underground did my roommate explain. "Didn't you notice?" she asked. "That limp? It wasn't there when we first saw her. She started limping when we got close." My skin prickled. And when you stood in that doorway, my roommate hesitated. Then she said flatly, I knew there was someone waiting upstairs. Probably her creepy son. Waiting to chain you to a bed. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to say she was overreacting. But the truth. Deep down, I knew she was right. The smell of smoke, the open door, the strange urgency in the woman's voice, it all fit together too well. Maybe it was imagination. Maybe it wasn't. But to this day, I'm grateful for her instincts. Because whatever was waiting at the top of those stairs, I never had to find out.